Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We love to unpack some of the most interesting stories in college football history, and today we're going to be looking at the most impactful transfers in the CFP era. We've got an article here ranking the top 10, and I think some of these names might just surprise you.
Yeah, it's really remarkable how much the transfer portal has just changed the entire landscape of college football.
It really has.
This dynamic flow of talent going from program to program. It's really something we've never seen before.
Absolutely. So let's set the stage here.
Okay.
This list is focusing on players who made it to the college football playoffs. So we're really talking about players who've been on the biggest stage.
Yeah, and that's a key distinction because it really shows just how impactful these transfers have been. We're not just talking about, guys who are looking for a little bit more playing time, but players who have really changed the entire outlook of a program.
Exactly. And to kick things off, at number 10, we have Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
Now, he's had kind of a crazy journey, flipping from Texas to Ohio State and then back to Texas.
Wow.
And how poetic is it that he's set to face his former team, Ohio State, in the upcoming Cotton Bowl?
No, that's awesome. That's going to be a fun one to watch.
I know. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
And while Ewers may not have the individual accolades of some of the other players on this list, his overall record speaks for itself.
Yeah, over 8,800 passing yards.
Wow.
A 21-4 record as a starter in the last 2 years for Texas.
Yeah.
He's a winner.
And he's already third all-time in Texas Longhorns history in passing yards and touchdowns. Not bad for a guy who's still relatively early in his career.
Yeah, not bad at all.
But what's really impressive to me is his resilience.
Yeah.
I mean, to navigate the pressure of being a top recruit, the weight of expectations, and then transferring not once, but twice.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of mental fortitude.
That takes a lot of guts for sure.
And speaking of players with multiple transfers,
Okay.
at number 9 we have Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, yeah?
He started at UCF, then made his way to Oklahoma, and finally landed at Oregon. Wow, what a journey.
He may not have had the most amazing CFP performance, but his career stats are pretty astonishing.
They are. I mean, over 11,000 passing yards, 95 touchdowns in his career, and he's only played for 4 years.
That's impressive.
It really is. And you know what's so interesting about Gabriel's case is that it really shows how complex these decisions are for players these days.
Right.
Is it about finding the best system for you? Is it about getting more playing time? Or is it about, NIL money?
Right.
It's probably a combination of all those things.
It's got to be.
And that's what makes the portal so interesting. It's like this, microcosm of the changing dynamics in college athletics these days.
I agree. And then at number 8, we have a wide receiver who really took a leap of faith. Jamison Williams. He left a star-studded wide receiver group at Ohio State and headed to Alabama.
That's one of the most fascinating things about the transfer portal is that you see these guys leaving these big programs with tons of talent to go to another big program with tons of talent.
Right. It's not always about playing time anymore. It's about finding the right fit.
Finding that right system.
And, it definitely paid off for Williams.
It did. At Alabama, he became a breakout star, racking up nearly 1,600 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns in just one season.
Unbelievable.
It really goes to show that sometimes a change of scenery can just unlock a player's true potential.
Yeah. It's amazing what can happen when you get a fresh start.
And then at number 7, we have our first defensive player on this list, Caleb Downs.
Okay.
And he's also the only one so far who made the move from Alabama to Ohio State.
That's really interesting. After Saban retired,
Right.
we're starting to see some cracks in that dynasty.
Yeah, it seems like no program is untouchable in this new era of college football.
It really does feel that way.
Now let's talk about a quarterback who made a huge splash when he transferred, Justin Fields, coming in at number 6. His move from Georgia to Ohio State was a pivotal moment for both programs.
It really was. Fields was such a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. It just didn't work out for him at Georgia.
Right.
But his pursuit of immediate eligibility when he transferred to Ohio State was really interesting.
It was.
I mean, he was granted that immediate eligibility, and that really set a precedent for other high-profile transfers.
Right, because now they know that they could potentially play right away instead of sitting out a year.
Exactly. And, the impact he had at Ohio State was huge.
It was huge. 2 CFP appearances, a Heisman finalist. It really shows how one player can change the entire trajectory of a program.
It's amazing. It really is.
It really makes you think about, team loyalty and player development in this day and age.
Yeah. Are we moving towards a model where players are just more focused on their own individual careers rather than staying at one school for 4 years?
Right. It's a really interesting question. And then at number 5, we have a story of resilience. Michael Penix Jr.
Oh, yeah, Penny.
He faced multiple setbacks due to injuries at Indiana, but his transfer to Washington was a true turning point.
I mean, talk about a comeback story.
I know.
This guy battled through so much adversity, and then he led the FBS in passing yards per game in 2022.
And was named the AP Comeback Player of the Year.
That's incredible.
But he didn't stop there. The following year, he shattered records, led Washington to an undefeated regular season and a spot in the CFP National Championship game.
Wow.
Talk about the power of perseverance.
And finding the right environment to thrive.
Exactly. I mean, he went from facing adversity to becoming a Maxwell Award winner and a Heisman runner-up.
I mean, it's like a movie script.
It really is. And it also makes you think about the role of coaching and program culture in maximizing a player's potential.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not just about talent, it's about finding the right fit.
Exactly. And now, speaking of quarterbacks who found their stride after transferring, at number 4, we have Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
He went from sharing the spotlight at Alabama to becoming a bona fide star at Oklahoma.
Yeah, and you know what's so interesting about Hurts is that he already had success at Alabama. He was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year.
Right.
But he wanted more. He wanted to be the guy.
To be the leader.
Exactly. And he got that opportunity at Oklahoma.
He did. He led them to a Big 12 championship and a CFP appearance.
And finished second in the Heisman voting.
It's amazing what he accomplished in just 1 year.
It is. It really speaks volumes about his work ethic and his desire to constantly improve.
Absolutely. And it also makes you wonder, how do these high-profile transfers impact the teams they leave behind?
Yeah, are these programs able to recover from losing these star players? Or are we seeing a widening gap between the teams that can reload and the teams that can't?
That's a great question, and maybe one we can dive into a little bit later.
Yeah, definitely.
But for now, we're entering the top 3, and these names are legendary. At number 3, we have the electrifying Kyler Murray.
Oh man, Kyler Murray, one of the most dynamic players we've ever seen.
He started at Texas A&M, but he really found his footing after transferring to Oklahoma.
And what a fit that was for him.
It really was. He won the Heisman Trophy, led Oklahoma to a Big 12 title, and became the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft.
He was unreal to watch.
Yes, he was like a cheat code on the field, making plays with both his arm and his legs.
And it really showed that finding the right system can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And now at number 2, we have a quarterback whose story is almost mythical, Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield.
He began as a walk-on at Texas Tech.
Oh, wow.
Before transferring to Oklahoma and becoming a college football icon.
What a story.
I know. To go from being overlooked to winning the Heisman Trophy and leading Oklahoma to multiple CFP appearances.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's the stuff of legends.
It is. He was a fiery leader on and off the field, electrifying Oklahoma football with his swagger and his undeniable talent.
His journey's proof that greatness can come from anywhere.
It really is. And it also speaks to the power of the transfer portal,
Yeah.
It's created these new avenues for players to find their opportunity and achieve success.
It really has. And finally, at the top of our list, we have the quarterback, who many consider to have had the most dominant single season in college football history.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
He started his career at Ohio State, but his destiny awaited him at LSU.
His 2019 season was just magical.
Yeah.
You broke records through for over 5,600 yards,
Yeah.
60 touchdowns.
Led LSU to an undefeated national championship.
He was the undisputed king of college football that year.
And he won the Heisman in a landslide victory.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
His transformation at LSU was remarkable.
I mean, he went from a solid player at Ohio State to an absolute legend in Baton Rouge.
It really is a prime example of how the right system, the right coaching can ignite a player's potential.
Yeah, and it also shows just how important the transfer portal has become for coaches. They can use it to find those missing pieces to their roster and elevate their programs to that championship level.
Right. And Burrow's journey reminds us that sometimes a change of scenery can be the catalyst for greatness.
Absolutely.
And that the transfer portal has become a crucial element in shaping the landscape of college football.
It really has.
Yeah.
It's changed everything.
It has. Man. It's crazy to think how much excitement the transfer portal has just brought to college football. Like, you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it really is. It's like every season, there's a new storyline, a new player on the move, and it just makes everything so unpredictable.
And you can't deny the impact it's had on the college football playoffs.
No, not at all. I mean, we've seen guys lead their teams to national championships.
Revitalize entire programs.
It's incredible.
And looking at this list, it's pretty clear that quarterbacks have been the driving force behind a lot of these transfers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 7 out of the 10 players on this list are quarterbacks.
Which really shows just how important that position is to achieving CFP success.
Absolutely. I mean, having that elite signal caller can make or break your championship aspirations.
Yeah.
And the transfer portal has become the best way to get that guy.
Right. It's almost like a free agency market within college football. Teams can actively go out and get the player that they need to fill a specific hole.
Exactly. It's a really interesting dynamic.
It is. And it raises some questions about what the long-term effects are going to be.
Yeah, like, has the transfer portal actually made the CFP more competitive?
I mean, when you look at the players on this list and what they've accomplished, it's hard to argue against it.
Yeah, they've definitely been a huge part of shaping the playoff landscape.
Right. And it's created more parity.
But it's not a simple equation.
Yeah.
Some programs benefit from this influx of talent, but others really struggle to replace the guys they lose to the portal.
Yeah, it's like this constant push and pull as teams try to adjust.
It's fascinating to watch.
It is. And, it's also interesting to think about how this affects the balance of power in college football.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks transferred to schools that were already known for strong coaching staffs and consistent success.
Yeah, like they're using the transfer portal to maintain their advantage.
Right, and it makes you wonder if it might actually widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But it's these tough questions that make the transfer portal so fascinating.
For sure.
It's not just about individual players chasing their dreams. It's about the broader impact on the sport, the relationships between programs, and the constant search for competitive balance.
And we can't forget about the fans.
Oh, yeah.
The transfer portal has created so many new storylines and rivalries.
Definitely. Like, imagine the emotions when Quinn Ewers takes the field against Ohio State.
Oh, man, I can't wait to see that.
It's going to be electric.
It's going to be amazing, and those human narratives are what make the sport so great.
Absolutely.
But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the elephant in the room, NIL.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny that NIL has become a huge factor in these transfer decisions.
Oh, absolutely. Players can now make money off their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
It adds a whole new dimension to recruiting.
Right, and it's created a much more competitive landscape. Schools aren't just competing for talent on the field anymore.
They're competing for their marketability off the field.
Exactly. And players are using their NIL potential to get better deals to explore new opportunities.
It's a game changer.
It is. It's like a free agency market within college football where players have more power than ever before.
Yeah, it's a reminder that college football is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And the transfer portal and NIL have ushered in a new era of player empowerment.
Right, and it's forcing everyone to adapt to this new landscape.
Coaches, administrators, fans, everyone.
And it's safe to say that the transfer portal is here to stay.
Oh yeah, there's no going back.
And its impact on college football is going to be felt for a long time.
For sure. It's just the beginning.
Man, what a time to be a college football fan, right? It feels like with the transfer portal and NIL, every season is just more and more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, college football has always been a wild ride.
Right.
But now it's like somebody hit the fast forward button.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's step back for a second and think about some of the key takeaways from this list.
Yeah. Okay.
First off, it's impossible to ignore how much of an impact transfer quarterbacks have had on the CFD era.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen time and time again that having an elite quarterback is the key to winning a championship.
Mm-hmm.
And the portal has become the easiest way to find that missing piece.
Right. These guys haven't just made their teams better, they've completely changed the competitive landscape of the CFP.
Oh, absolutely. And for coaches, the portal has become this incredibly valuable tool.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just limited to recruiting high school kids anymore.
Right.
You can go out and find a proven quarterback who can step in and make a difference right away.
Right. And then you add NIL on top of that.
Yeah.
And it just adds another layer of intrigue to the whole thing.
Absolutely. Players have more power than ever before.
They do?
They can control their own destiny.
And it makes you wonder, how is all this going to affect the future of college football? Like, will the traditional powerhouses be able to hold on to their dominance?
Or will the portal create more opportunities for other programs to rise up?
And how's all this movement going to impact player development?
Right. Is it better for these guys to bounce around to different systems, or is that going to hurt them in the long run?
It's a really fascinating experiment, and we're all kind of watching it unfold in real time.
Exactly. We won't know the answers for a few years, but one thing is for sure. The transfer portal is changing college football in a big way.
No doubt. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. How might this trend shape the future of college football dynasties and player development?
It's the million-dollar question.
It is. So keep those questions coming, keep those debates going, and most importantly, keep that passion for college football burning bright.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those insights flowing.